So first basic concept of Chen Taijiquan that we need to understand before we can jump into the form is understanding how we shift our weight from left side to the right side and right side to the left side. So there's quite a few different ways that this can be done, but the most general and the most basic concept is what we refer to as a backwards U shape. So when we practice Taijiquan, we need to get into our stance. So the stance is similar to that of a horse stance as far as your width is concerned. And we can review on how to find a proper width for our own body is by measuring out 3.5 of our own feet width. So if I put one foot perpendicular to the other, that would be 1. Do a 180-degree rotation, that's 2. Another 180-degree rotation, that's 3. And then bring my feet parallel. So with this width, it's based on my own body proportions, and so it should be fairly comfortable. We don't really need to go too much wider than this, and if you feel more comfortable, you can bring it in slightly. Now, basic principles apply here that we learned through our standing practice, meaning that our knees are bent, and when the knees bend, we sink the qua, so the knees should not be protruding forward, right? So when we bend our knees and we sit back, the knees should not go forward like this. That we should sit back and the knees are bent and they still generally are behind our toes, okay? The tailbone is down and we're in this seated position. Now at the beginning, we don't have to necessarily go too low, but the body mechanics are still the same regardless if we're in a higher stance or a lower stance. So starting out, we can just find something that's comfortable for us. So one of the basic ideas behind Taijiquan, if you look at the yin and yang symbol, we have the black and the white. So meaning that there's always a yin and there's a yang. So we hardly ever find ourselves in a 50-50 horse stance position. There are occasions throughout the form and routine that we do find a little bit of a even distribution between both sides, but generally speaking, we're going to be on one leg about 70% of our weight and the other side about 30%, give or take, and then we're always going to be shifting over to the other side and generating the momentum through this weight shift. So we can just place our hands on our hips and put it here into your inguinal region. Also can help you emphasize that sinking quality here in the qua. Now, shift your weight over onto one side first, and I'm going to put my weight on my right side. Now, when my weight is on the right, I should be sitting down into this right side qua. So my bottom as if I'm sitting back onto a chair. Now, what we want to make sure that we avoid is that we don't lock up this left knee, but the knee also remains bent. And not only is this knee bent, but we still are maintaining this sinking and sitting posture through both qua. Now the qua on the right side is definitely open and sunken in further than the left due to the nature of the angle coming out from the hips. So this would be your weight on one side. But now how do we transfer our weight from one side to the other? Because coming up and down is not the most efficient way to do such a movement. And it's not the way we do it in the Chen Taiji. But so what I had mentioned earlier is this backwards U shape. So the U comes from thinking about our tailbone. That we bring the tailbone back, so we shift our weight slightly back, and we make a U with the tailbone as we come around and back over to the other side. Because if we were to make a straight line from, let's say now I'm on the right, if we were to make a straight line from the right to the left, we would end up, there would be a lot of shifting happening through the knees, and the alignment and the structure from the ground up is going to be compromised. So the idea is that we utilize the rotation and the range of motion that we have here in the quad through this inguinal region. So if we start here on the right side, and then depending on the strength of your thighs, you may want to just bring your height up a little bit. So we bring our weight over to the right, both knees bent, slightly sitting down into the quad. Press your weight into your right heel. Now, instead of just shifting over, rather bring your bottom back, your tailbone back, and imagine you're drawing a U shape on the ground as you shift, as your right heel presses in and your weight shifts to the left. But once you arrive on the left side as well, we stop here and we don't press the knee forward. And then from here, we can press our weight into the left heel, bring your bottom and your tailbone back, drawing a U, till we're back over onto the right side. Now, we can take a look from the back. So I'm starting with my weight on the right. I press my weight into my right heel and bring my tailbone back as I shift over to the left. Now from here, we press our left heel into the ground, press and back over. So the tailbone comes out slightly and rolls over to the other side. Because if we were to just draw a straight line across, there's a lot more movement in the knees, and we also have this up and down motion, which we want to keep a nice stable height. That as we transfer, the body remain stable and solid. Now in this position, we want to have, generally speaking, all of our body weight, let's say, transferred down towards our heel rather than towards the toes. So especially as we're starting out, and what is a little bit more preferred was, from here we can gently lean the body forward. Now, still keeping the back straight, dropping the tailbone, tucking the chin, but with the body just slightly forward in this type of wrestling position, ready to lunge forward per se. But from this position, pressing our weight into the left heel, shifting over to the right. The bottom comes back and over. So the knees remain still and stable. So there's no movement in the knees, but rather we are utilizing the area of the quad to shift from one side to the other. So once again, from the front view, I'm starting with my weight onto my right side. Press my weight into my right heel, making the U over to my left side. And then from here, we should see our thigh coming down to our toe, pointing out. The knee should not be opened out and should not be buckled in, but having a nice type of a angle coming through and pointing outwards. So as we press our weight into the left heel, shift over to the right, keeping both qua open, sitting back, always sitting back. Keeping your weight towards your heel, this will also protect your knee. Slightly leaning forward. Dig my weight into my right heel, press, and back over. Keeping my center line of my body straight. Okay, press, shift. Knees remain stable, body remains vertical. The center line is straight, meaning I'm not twisting or shifting or turning. Press, shift. These are both sunken in. Knees are bent. Okay. So, generally speaking, this backwards U shift, this can be utilized pretty much throughout the form. And as we move forward and as you learn, there will be other ways that we can shift our weight. But generally speaking, this is the most safe. This is the most common and the most introductory form of weight shifting that we can prepare, and you will be quite successful at the first stages as we learn. So go ahead and practice and repeat several times. Practice till your legs get sore, tired, stop, take a break, right? Shake it out, and then get back down into your stance and practice again. Now, we don't need to be too low. If you want to practice slightly higher, it is acceptable. But remember to maintain and adhere to those standards with the knees, the qua, keeping the center line straight, and as we shift. When you want to build up more stamina and strength in the thighs, then we can sink down lower and develop and work on the glutes and the quadriceps at a lower stance. And as you practice, especially if you do get into a little bit lower position, make sure that we remain relaxed, the chest relaxed, the chin gently tucked. Because when we start to strain the body, there's a tendency to want to protrude the chest and reach out the chin to kind of help our lower body. I don't know, it's just a natural response for some people. But if you find yourself doing that, first bring your stance up a little bit higher. There's no need to be too low. And as you drop your tailbone, relaxing the chest, dropping the chin in so the chest remains relaxed. Okay? So if you have any questions, please leave in the comments below.